Our story tonight starts in sadness, but ends with singing and celebration. So let's start with the sadness. Long ago, the first Jewish people, our great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents, were slaves. Let me try to describe what that means. A slave is a person who is forced to do what another person says. The master of the slave can force the slave to work even when the slave is exhausted. The slave cannot say, "I'm too tired." The master of the slave can decide not to give the slave food. The slave cannot say, "I need to eat." The master of the slave can separate a mother from her children. The slave cannot say, "My child needs me to take care of him." The master might be kind one day, but the next day the master might turn cruel and mean. And no one can tell the master, "You need to treat your slave with kindness." The master can always say, "This is my slave, and I will decide whether to be kind or cruel." Our story starts in sadness because our people, the Jewish people long ago, we were slaves, and we belonged to Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. First, there was a kind Pharaoh, but then he died, and a new Pharaoh came, and he was cruel. He made us work until we could not stand. He made us work and did not care if we were hungry. He took children away from their parents, and in the end, he even commanded his soldiers to throw babies into the river to drown. Finally, God began to save us. God began to force Pharaoh to set us free. God brought plagues against Pharaoh, terrible changes in the sky and the water and the land, the animals and the insects, 10 plagues. God turned the water of the Nile River into blood. God brought hundreds and thousands of frogs out of the river and into the houses and bedrooms and kitchens of Pharaoh's city. And I know, 1 or 2 frogs can be fun, but thousands of frogs is terrible. God brought wild animals to attack and made it rain hail, balls of ice filled with fire, and locusts, huge clouds of flying grasshoppers. And when each plague came, Pharaoh said, "Okay, you can leave. All of you Jews, leave my land. Just take away this plague." But as soon as the plague ended, Pharaoh said, "Wait, I've changed my mind. You cannot leave." God brought darkness so thick that a person could not see his hand in front of his face. And still Pharaoh said, "You cannot leave." And finally, in the springtime, this time of year, when the moon was full, just like tonight, God said, "One last plague. This time, Pharaoh will let my people go." The Jewish people stayed inside their homes for one entire night. They put a mark on their doors to show that it was a Jewish house. And outside, the angel of death went from house to house. But the angel saw the mark on the Jewish doors and passed over our houses, keeping everyone inside safe and protected. And that's why we call this night Passover. The angel passed over our houses and kept us safe and protected inside. Then, suddenly, it was time for us to leave in a hurry. Everyone said, "Come on, fast, we need to leave now." And we wondered what we would take for food. There wasn't time for much. We took flour and water to make bread, but we left in such a hurry that we just mixed it and baked it fast. There was no time for it to rise. And so the first bread that we ate when we ran fast out of Egypt was matzah. Matzah is the flat bread we eat tonight, and it reminds us of that Passover night when we left in a hurry, our first night of freedom. Matzah is freedom bread. We got out of there, running all the time, and came to a huge body of water that we couldn't get through. The Red Sea stretched out in front of us, and we did not know what to do. And then a wind came and blew the sea open, parting the waters and making a path down the middle. And we ran through the water to freedom. And when we came out on the other side, the waters crashed down behind us. And we sang, and we danced, and we thanked God, who had saved our lives and taken us out from slavery to freedom. And that is the story of our journey from sadness to celebration. We tell that story tonight to make sure that we never become slaves again, and to remind us to always stand up and help and take care and protect and defend anyone who cannot stand up for themselves, because we remember that once we were slaves to Pharaoh. We know how it feels. Happy Passover, everyone.